it's so hard to see in the daylight. Woo!
Here we are at Lake Macatawa. Just letting the engine warm up a little for oil change. Sometimes I go out there and float around and change the oil, but today I think I'm just going to keep it on the trailer and let it warm up. Get the oil up to temperature so it drains easy, and the lower unit oil as well. So kind of waiting over here. The motor's idling a little bit. In a minute I'll pull it out. I've dismantled some parts on the motor cover so I can get to the motor, and my goal right now is to drain the old oil. And what I've done is I've used this pump. It's a top side oil pump, and I just have to pull the handle several times to create a pressure, and then oil starts to flow from the engine down this hose into the container. And this is a lot easier than trying to do it the other way. My other option would be to remove this plug down here, way down here, this plug, and it creates a heck of a mess. It's really hard to get an oil pan underneath there. So basically what I'm doing is inserting that hose all the way down there. It flows through that shiny dipstick pipe and then right here, and that way it's a lot easier, a lot nicer, and a lot cleaner. My next job here is to remove this oil filter. You'll see the oil filter right there, and I'm going to have to use an oil filter wrench, and I'm also going to have to use a container to help catch the oil. So I'm going to grab my container and put it down right below the filter, and now I'm going to grab my wrench, and my goal here is to turn this to the left if I was looking underneath it, so I actually need to flip this over. Alright, start to turn it on the left. And now I'm going to have a little bit of a mess. So I'm going to hold the container up right below the oil filter and unscrew it. Okay, now I'll have some oil coming out, and my goal here is to keep a lot of it from getting down to the sump and causing problems in my bilge. So I'm going to wait for this to drain. Okay, now I have my new oil filter ready to go. I spent some time making sure I had the right one, and I've put just a little thin layer of oil around the seal. This way it will help make a nice tight seal when I replace it. Before I put this on, I want to check to make sure the old seal came off the oil filter. Sometimes they'll stick on, and that can cause a lot of problems. So make sure you look at that and get that figured out. Once I get my new oil filter on, I can top the engine off with oil, and then system. Right over here is my hydraulic system, and basically what I have here is on here, it's kind of hard to see, but that I want to have that fluid level right between the two, and it looks pretty good. When I get ready to fill that up a little bit, I want to make sure I use the right fluid level and make sure I get it at the correct level. It also will expand and contract with heat.
Okay, this right here is my water pump. This is what circulates water through my engine, and it's really important to disconnect these. There's just a hose clamp on there, and then I kind of wiggle it around the edges and just slowly pull it off, and there'll be quite a bit of water in here, and then there'll be a little bit more in the top one, probably. Alright, there we go. Now it's really important in the summer, when you hook this back up in the summer, it's really important that you make a good seal. Take some water, rub it around here, make a good seal. I've had these leak before in the spring when I go to take my boat out for the first time. These will leak, and then you'll have a lot of water inside the engine compartment. Another thing you can do right now while you're getting ready to winterize is change this fuel water separator. What happens in the summer, if your boat's in the water a lot and then it cools down at night, you create moisture in the gas, and you have the moisture, when it comes up through here, this filter separates it, which is really important because you don't want the moisture to get in the engine. This is really easy to take off. It just unscrews and you put the new one back in. On some engines where the fuel system is pressurized, you're going to have to find the fuel line pressure release valve. So be sure to check your manual first to make sure you know what you're doing on that. You don't want an explosion. You have to be really careful. There will be some leaking fuel that you have to watch out for. Okay, next on the winterization checklist is to check the power steering fluid. If I look over here, I'll see some power steering fluid, and it's pretty important that I check this occasionally. Basically right now the engine's starting to get colder because it's been a couple hours now since I ran it, so I want to make sure it's full up to the cold mark. It is at the top of the motor, usually on the other side of the carburetor. It kind of takes the place of an air filter. With a boat, you don't really need an air filter. You're not in dusty, dirty conditions. So basically, this is my air filter. It's my spark arrestor. What I'm doing is I'm looking in here to see if it's all clean. The fin should be clean. If it is dirty, you take this out and blow it out with compressed air. Right now, I'm just glancing at this. It looks pretty good. So I think I'm going to leave it. But if I want to take it off, I just have to take this nut off here, slide the unit out, and then I can go and blow it out with some compressed. Okay, take out my battery. It's a good idea to take out the battery every year. Fill plug, which is right at the top of the lower unit. And if I take this out, you'll be able to see the dipstick level on it. It's just a little bit of a hash out piece, and that's where I need to refill it to that level. But right now my goal is just to drain it. So I'm going to put this back in, and if I look down here, you'll see the drain plug. It's a little bit hard to see, but it's right at the very bottom. I've already pulled it, and you can see some fluid coming out. So it takes a long time to drain all the lower unit grease, and if you look right here, the dipstick has a little magnet on it.